Tell us about your earliest memories, finding out that you were going to become a dad, and that first encounter with your daughter.
It was Thanksgiving. I got a phone call. It went like, "Hey, what if I told you I was pregnant?" And I was like, "Ha!" And then it was like, "No, I'm actually pregnant." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm 17, so it was kind of jarring at first." Um, it wasn't like a normal pregnancy call because usually you get a little heads up, you get a little time to absorb. When I got the call, she was already 6 months pregnant. It was like, this baby's happening. There's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing I can do about it. Adjust your 17-year-old brain and make it happen. So that's the kind of mindset I had to get in after I realized that there is no other way out of the situation but man up and be a father. So
Yeah, I mean, we grew up. My family and I we grew up in an environment where there were no parental figures. Pretty much, we had to raise ourselves anyway. My mom worked at night, and she wasn't available during the day usually. And I kind of didn't have a father figure around, just like anybody else. I grew up with most of my cousins around. They didn't have their father figures for the most part either. So we all had to draw from each other. I drew from them, from my cousins, and any male figures that were around at the time. My martial arts instructors were my father figures, big time. I had one teacher during high school who really his name is Gerard Shriven. He was an attorney at the time who taught kids who were trapped in the system like myself. He really guided me in the right direction to make the right decisions to become a more responsible adult, and just put the gears in motion so that I can be more productive. So shout out to Gerard Shriven, because without that guy I probably wouldn't have been much. He helped facilitate a lot of my energy that I had and thought process to be more productive. So yeah, there were people there when I needed them, and they were paramount to my development as a person.
You mentioned something about a difference between what divorced men go through and what unmarried men go through in terms of custody and things like that. Explain that to us.
All right, so in New York, if you wanted to get divorced, you would have to go to a Supreme Court at 161st. And when you're there, you get one judge. The judge covers the entire case. When you're unmarried and you have a child, you go through family court and you have multiple judges. You have one judge for custody, you have one judge for child support, and if you have a family offense, you might have a different judge for that. Sometimes they combine them, but not always. And part of the primary differences is that a married man and a married woman will have a decree, a divorce decree at the end of their divorce. And that will be the foundation for which their child, if they have one in common, will be raised. And that is the status quo for that kid, And from there on out, if the father wants to modify that, change it, or alter it completely, reverse it or whatnot, he has to then fight that foundation. And that's a harder foundation to fight, because you would need time, you would need details, and there would have to be something like really major for the family court judge to go against an already ordered decree. As opposed to a unmarried father, they come from different walks of life, they have different settings. But in the family court, they can just go and file a petition for custody, visitation, child support, whatnot. And those things change much more rapidly, much more easier, because there is no set foundation or no set path already installed outside of the initial order. But even then, modifying it is just a little bit easier. So for example, if a dad had every other weekend and he wants one more extra day, so long as he has prevalent, good things going, he'll be fine. As opposed to a, divorce decree, first of all, there might be a lot more animosity there. And in the end, the opposing parent, which might be the mom, majority is the mom, can always go back to it and go, no, originally we had this and this is what I want. And it's going to be really hard to fight that. That's why most divorced guys are more jaded. They have more things to deal with. They have a higher curve to overcome. and they have a lot less resources.
They go through the family court system, they run into barriers. And one of those barriers is that they don't have adequate representation or adequate access to representation. Now there are wonderful organizations like LIV and other organizations that they can use, but in the end, their time with those resources are limited, as opposed to other resources which are more available to moms. And it's unfortunate it's like that. And I don't think there's a conspiracy about it, but I do think that that barrier is there, and unfortunately it's causing a lot of families to stay disintegrated.
Thank you, Raphael. Let's move on. The next gentleman over here, David Banks has something to contribute.
I just want to say there are a couple of issues that have to be framed in order for us to really understand what's happening here, right? First of all, there is this issue of fathers who are just not even in the community anymore. And then there's another issue about fathers who are in the community who are either absentee dads or otherwise trying to do the right thing and can find themselves in the middle of a struggle. I'm talking about what Michelle Alexander was talking about in her book, The New Jim Crow. This very deliberate, focused, intentional removal of the father from our community. That's number one.
Telling Felix earlier, I was raised by the best dad in the world. You know, I say that unashamedly. You know, and I know for a fact that there are plenty of people out there who share the same story as me. So, but why is it that these men would get no props, no respect? So I wrote this, for all black fathers, on behalf of their black sons. So this is what I wrote. You've been present in my life since the moment of conception, to catch me when I fall and lead me in the right direction. It's the truth, and people tend to look at me in shock at the fact that another black man could be my rock. I just smile when they say I'm a chip off the old block. I'm proud to wear my name because I come from good stock. Having you as a father has proven to be a blessing. Your wisdom is golden, and I'll hold on to every lesson. Like, it might not be easy, but always do what's right. And it takes a real man to walk away from a fight. Be above pettiness without being snotty. Be gentle and polite, but don't take crap from anybody. Anything I put my mind to, I'll achieve. And my life is worth more than what society would have me believe. You kept me in the books and kept my street smarts up to par. You taught me how to ride a bike, as well as how to drive a car. You're the key player in the shaping of my persona. Learned how to treat women watching you interact with mama. Observing the way you live, I get a sense of clarity. Because in understanding you, I can understand me. You're the most honorable, upstanding man that I know. I won't depart because you trained me up the way I should go. That's the way it is, and I'd have it no other way. I have you to thank for the man that I am today. So many young men have daddies that just don't bother. I'm a lucky one because that's not the case with my father. I'd be lucky to do half as good a job that you've done. You're my hero, second to none, and I'm proud to be your son.
So from a public policy and advocacy, I frame this as our issue, men, regardless of color. This is the single greatest civil rights issue of this millennium, civil rights. It is an absolute violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution for a man to walk into an unregulated, self-governing fourth arm of government, the family court, which touches us more than any other court system besides the traffic court, and be viewed as less than, not equal to, and not good enough. Am I moving too fast? Do y'all understand what I'm saying? You walk into a court before any judge in any state in this country, the rebuttable presumption of shared and co-equal parenting is not there. The presumption is that the mother is more fit than you, and you have to prove your worth.
I am not ashamed at what I've done. I had to leave. It was either that or the constant conversation of how broke I am, me, having to constantly coach her on who I am, my ambitions and where I'm going. She, the constant reminder of the obstacles I haven't moved. I had to leave for sake of clarity. Tempers were flaring too often, arguments were getting too deep, and accusations started to be thrown around. accused of being unloving and unfaithful. She really didn't trust me. I know she had me tailed a few times. Her and her best friend, Paranoia. For 3 months, she didn't show. I was told by the 4th month she started to balloon. And it was the 3rd month I took my leave. For sanity's sake, I had to put love aside, and her love turned into hatred. I mean, I didn't know until I knew. And once I knew, I didn't believe. Please. There were several women of my past, and all of them were fine to the point where I thought I was sterile. So how could this one woman, who I'm pretty sure I was careful with, tell me the color was pink? I said, "Are you sure?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Well, take the test again." She said she took it 3 times. I said, "Well, take it till it's blue." What?
For more than a dozen years, a young woman has been trying to take back the words she spoke as a child, the words that sent a Newburgh, New York man who was accused of sexually molesting her to prison. Recanting her story and getting authorities to believe her has proved far more difficult than she imagined. But now, after all these years, prosecutors in upstate New York are actively reviewing the entire case as a man who has long claimed his innocence awaits the outcome still behind bars. Shania Kelly is on a mission.
I'm 24 years old, and I made this mistake when I was 9 years old.
She wants the world to know that 15 years ago, she falsely accused this man of raping her.
This came as a total shock to me.
His name is Daryl Kelly. He's her father.
Did your father rape you?
No.
Carlos, you're here, you're a father that's affected by the family court system, or are you here just to support those families that are affected?
For both. I found myself caught up in a system that unbelievable consequences. My life has taken a dramatic turn. I've not only suffered financial devastation, but alienation from my children, loss of my career, loss of everything, to be honest with you. And from a system that I never would have imagined this would happen to me from. The professional standards for the two professions, in my case, a pediatrician, and for lawyers, are completely different. I have to document with extreme accuracy. I have to be accountable for everything I say. If I have a patient with an extensive chart, it is my responsibility solely to be familiar with all the information within those documents. I found myself in family court providing reams of paperwork to magistrates and judges, completely, I can't find the words, describing and detailing my financial situation. But since the attorney I had hired failed to discuss that during my trial, the magistrate nor the judge were accountable to look into the information that I had provided to the court. So with ample documentation, I found myself incarcerated, and my life has been turned completely upside down. I'm 47 years old with a professional degree that I still have to pay off, and I'm now unemployed with dismal hopes of returning to my profession.
Beginning in August of 2006, I was ensnared in this web, and to this day, almost 8 years later, I am still ensnared. False allegations began this litigation in the support of the domestic violence industry, and the court-appointed law guardians perpetrated this. As far back as December of 2009, the original complainant, my former wife, admitted while sitting next to the judge and giving testimony that she had lied. I'm not here for myself. I'm here for my 9-year-old daughter who has a loving, caring father who's been ripped from her life. If you would like to see the documentation and the court orders that this case is based upon and not listen to my rhetoric, you can visit www.markjosephsullivan.com / and these are capital letters, CW, Christmas Wish. Once again, that's markjosephsullivan.com / capital CW.
Ernest, you mentioned earlier that there are at least 3 most common mistakes that fathers make in family law matters. What would they be? What are they?
The first major mistake is probably reacting too late. They file or they wait too long for something to happen. They wait for something to happen to them. So Generally, somebody will file a child support petition against them or a custody petition against them. They'll try to get everything done themselves, right? We're men, we want to be able to take care of things ourselves. That's a problem, because what happens is if people don't have a full understanding of the law, they go into a situation where they may do some damage to their case. Once that damage is done, once orders are written for a judge, it's really difficult to get them reversed. So you're digging yourself out of a hole from the very beginning. So I would encourage the dads to seek legal help once they get a petition in their hand, not after they've made several appearances on the case. The second thing
is the family court and the child support collection unit, at least that's what they're called in New York, and those are the two entities that I guess fathers have the most problem with. If there's a third somewhere in that family law mix, let us know. Is there any oversight that assures that what the courts are doing, or that what the child support is doing, or how they're behaving towards the fathers is maybe not legitimate is the word, but it's right? Are they doing things efficiently, effectively? Are they creating risks?
Well, the major issue that the state of New York, or at least the city of New York, is dealing with is budgetary, right? It's difficult for them to move cases along because the courts don't have the funding to keep the courts open later, and to staff the courts with the officers to make sure that cases can be seen in an expeditious manner. The other issue is there are people that, there's generally an the chief administrative judge or the chief judge of a family court division, maybe it's child support, maybe it's visitation, whatever, or just a chief judge of the family court that you can complain to regarding, certain things happening in the family court. But the best way to get action done is to contact your legislature, whether it's your city councilman, if there's an issue, or your state representative in Albany. Those are the people that'll be able to get through in a lot of they'll get their phone calls returned.